breakthrough needs. So I would just take few moments to introduce him. Um, so he's basically a founder and a CEO of Govin Capital, a Singapore-based investment company, which he actually started in 2014. So previously incorporating Capital, he actually served as a senior vice president and head of the investment and spin-off management division at Accelerate Technology, which was a commercialization arm for Agency for Science, Technology and Research, which is very well known as A-Star in Singapore. Dr. Anand was also a member of Direct Investment Life Sciences team at Temasek Holding, where we actually created and drew a lot of value chain around lead sourcing, conducting due diligence, serving on boards of companies, and managing exits for investing companies. He also served as president of FABA since from the year 2019 to 2021. He also actually counts a lot of advisory board members with Biomedical Sciences in Singapore MIT Alliance, then with Kalma Center India, Kalam Center India. Then he was investor judge for Ideas Inc., Nanyang Technology Entrepreneurship Center at NTU. And recently, he also has been awarded Asia Pacific Innovation Education Leadership Award in the year 2019 and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Innovation and Entrepreneurship in 2016. So, ma'am, I again welcome Dr. Anand on the dais. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have a very difficult
Dr.
job.
Anand, just before you start,
Yes.
let us welcome you with a bouquet on the
Oh,
dais.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon. I have a very difficult job. I'm actually between lunch and my session. So I'll try to see if I can make this as interesting as possible. The topic that I've been given is to speak about opportunities in life sciences domain for bearing in mind tomorrow's healthcare needs. So it's a slightly futuristic topic, and also I like this topic for two reasons. Because as an investor, I have been investing in life sciences companies for the past 22 years. And for those who don't know me, just a short background is that I have invested in about 67, 68 biotech companies, life sciences companies, made some very good successful exits from 25 odd companies, failed in 20 odd ventures, and remaining are all private. So some of the examples that I'm going to share today, instead of actually giving you a theoretical introduction or a theoretical overview about what's happening in the life sciences arena, what areas are promising going forward, what I thought will be good is to give you examples of where we have made investments, my fund has made investments, and from those examples, maybe we can try to extract some meaningful summary from each of those investments. So to begin with, we all know that the Global Innovation Index, there are some countries which have been consistently being ranked in the top 10, and the Scandinavian nations along with the United States and Singapore, from where I come from, has always been in the top 10 for the past 5 years. Having said this, there is a fresh buzz of vibrancy in the innovation ecosystem when it comes to India. And I have noticed this, that in recent 5 years or so, the number of patents that have been filed, the number of patents that are being commercialized, the number of patents that are being granted from India have gone up significantly. And no wonder it is not a surprise for me that India right now ranks in the top 50, and I'm very confident with the kind of steps that government is taking, the universities, the institutes, the policies that are being formulated. We will very soon be in the top 10 too. Now, I'm going to share an example, like what I told you, right? In fact, I've been asked to speak about the opportunities in life sciences domain. So one of the areas which I feel very strong about is medical diagnostics, be it the point of care diagnostics for malarial testing, or be it point of care diagnostic for sickle cell anemia or for tuberculosis. I started my career as a mycobacterium tuberculosis, working on tuberculosis. And I'm going to share some examples of where we have invested And so this is one example. It's a company based in Portland, Oregon. The intellectual property, so you see two of them, in fact, two founders, Patty White and Peter Gallen. I've known them for close to about 15 years. So that's also one of the reasons as to why I've decided to back them up. So when they spoke about developing the next generation point of care diagnostic for malarial testing and sickle cell anemia, and sickle cell anemia is in the news because recently the finance minister mentioned about a vision for India to eradicate sickle cell anemia by 2047. So I think these technologies which I'm going to share with you is going to play a very phenomenal role. So the intellectual properties actually come from Case Western Reserve University in the US. And the two of them, they decided to license it and spin it off into a company. The company is called Hemex Health. And the vision was a ladder box for malarial and sickle cell anemia. So when I came into their lives, in fact, I said, we must bring in the India angle. I was very clear that malaria or sickle cell anemia is not a first world country problem. It's a problem for emerging economies like India, Africa, and so on and so forth. So I was able to convince them to come in and bring in the India element quite early in the game. And this is about 2016 or so when I met them and when we invested in this particular company. And so what we did at that point of time is that we actually brought them to the Tatas. I serve on the advisory board of Tata Elxsi. It's a company with a turnover of about 1.5, one of the best stock performers on the Indian Stock Exchange. We have a group of about 300 medical engineers. And so together we work with them to develop a lab in a box. And I'm happy to say that now the product has been approved by the Indian government, by the Indian regulators, and we are already commercializing it in India. The testing for malaria is about $1. The testing for sickle cell anemia is about $3 or $4. And the beauty of this whole story is that it's a US innovation, but made in India. It fits very nicely with the Atmanirbhar story that we're talking about, and highly affordable. So let me just play this video and see if it works. How do I play the video? The first video. Can you play the video? Are you going to play the video?
If a child has sickle cell disease in Africa, only about 20% will see their sixth birthday. We know for a fact that 96% do not get tested. And those then grow up getting pneumonias, sepsis. If they have the dual gene, they are actually more susceptible to malaria and die from malaria. The human toll is unimaginable.
There are definitely countries in Africa where 25% of all child mortality is being caused by sickle cell disease. And if you can diagnose them, 70% of those kids would live. And if they're not diagnosed, more than half die by their fifth birthday. So, we're talking 750 kids a day are dying from sickle cell disease.
Close to 15,000 newborns every year come with sickle cell disease. For us, and for sickle cell disease patients, the first entry point is newborn screening.
The traditional diagnostic using HPLC or these larger machines were only located in the big centers. So for example, in Ghana, you only find it in Accra and Kumasi. We would have to transport the baby and the mother, take a bus, take them to the city center, wait for a day or two to get the results, and then transport them back. So having a point of care diagnostic is going to revolutionize the number of patients we can screen and diagnose and therefore treat and therefore keep alive.
So I'm Patty White, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hemex Health from Portland, Oregon. Our product has a 1-minute malaria diagnostic and a accessible,
That's the one that
affordable
was made by the
sickle cell
Tatas.
diagnostic. So we really create this
So when I went to
platform,
Case
this
Western,
lab
the
in
product
box
was
that
this
can really
huge.
go out
And so from this
test
huge
and
product,
make these
we
tests
came
before.
up with a lab in a box. And that's the power of the India
and
innovation and the
easy to
India
use.
engineering talent that
Truly
we were
transformational.
able to bring it to
They
this
can live the
MXL.
normal
Can you
life
play the next video,
until they
please?
experience
We'll
it.
stop this and the
Just the
first
simple-
video, introduce Gazelle. Yeah. Yeah, just click on that. Yeah. No. ఇది కాదండి ప్రీవియస్ ఇది కాదు no go to the previous slide. Okay, never mind, it's okay, రావట్లేదా, it's okay, leave it. Next slide please. So in the previous slide, I was trying to communicate what is the value that I was trying to bring, or what kind of opportunities I'm investing in. So we are clearly investing in medical diagnostics. So point of care diagnostics for malaria, sickle cell anemia, tuberculosis, HIV. So this is something which we are actively looking for. I got some examples going forward for new technologies that we are evaluating from an investment perspective. The next company that I've invested already, so all these are examples where we have already invested in these companies in the last couple of years. So Ray IoT is again is a company again based in the US, but they have a very strong R&D innovation team out of Bangalore. And this particular company, let me play the video and then we can talk about it. Can you play the video please? Founded by 3 women entrepreneurs who have a story to share.
Are you experiencing shortness of breath and fever? And did you know shortness of breath is the only symptom that differentiates COVID-19 from flu? Well, don't panic. COVID-19 is a respiratory illness that affects the lungs and specifically your breathing. You can categorize the patients on severity and who needs ICU facility by tracking breathing rate and fever. This is important for the task forces to predict and plan. With the continuing surge in COVID-19 cases, there's a greater risk of shortage of doctors and nurses with ICUs and isolation wards falling short of capacity. Is there any solution? Yes. Ray IoT is non-contact, affordable, Wi-Fi-enabled breathing rate monitoring solution that helps you convert any space into a quarantine space with a clinical setting using artificial intelligence. Its centralized quarantine database feature helps to monitor more than 1 lakh patients simultaneously, using AI and intelligently placing them into mild, severe, and critical categories instantaneously. Is it reliable? Yes. It has undergone 500 hours of clinical trials, capturing variations in 7 billion breathing instances during fever, asthma, and sleep apnea with 98% accuracy. In this hour of crisis, it is a handy solution to avoid rush of patients, with doctors being able to monitor patients in severe and critical categories remotely through video and audio. And of course, being safer by avoiding contact with patients. Convert any space into a quarantine facility with our mini ICU units.
So that's Ray IoT. The 3 of them, in fact, they're close friends. One of them is an artificial intelligence scientist from the US, came back to Bangalore, teamed up with 2 others. And so they had an experience where their very close friend delivered a child, a baby, a newborn baby, but with irregular heartbeat. And they were not in a position to find out whether the child was breathing or not. So for a long period of time, the baby had to be in an incubator. It was during that time they realized that they had to come up with a solution to know whether the newborn baby is breathing or not. And that's where the birth of Ray Baby or Ray IoT took place, to identify a non-contact. Because when you touch a baby, a newborn baby, there is a chances of actually spreading infection. And so to avoid that, so they came up with a signal processing technology, a novel signal processing technology using AI to measure the breathing rates, the breathing patterns. And this particular concept that was used in hospitals. So they tried it out in Cloud9 Hospital in Bangalore and in other parts in the US, has been extended very well towards during the COVID-19 emergency. And now this company is one of the leading companies in developing smart ICUs for hospitals, anytime, anywhere diagnosis. So that's again a classic example as to how you can marry the best of science, both in biological sciences, clinical sciences, and artificial intelligence to come up with novel innovations which will be useful for the market going forward. Next slide, please. This is a company which we invested in Singapore. The premise for investing in this company is aging. As Singapore is literally 1 in 3 Singaporeans are likely to age sooner than later. And this aging issue is not just a problem of Singapore, but predominantly in Southeast Asia, Japan, and also now in India. Now I see that elderly care or elderly population is on the rise in this country. So what we did here is we identified, let's play the video. So we developed a digital health app, and this digital health app was basically built around to place nurses.
Hi, I'm John. I'm CEO and founder of EB Care. We started the idea of EB Care while in hospital. I saw a lot of patients spend a few hours coming to hospital for simple wound dressing.
Last year, I got a chance to read.
Not enough people to take care of elderly population. And so how do you take care of elderly population, especially if you have a working couple at home, and so no one to take care of their parents. So during this time in Singapore, we built a repository of about 450 nurses, accredited nurses who actually were qualified nurses. And so we onboarded them on an app, and through the digital health app, we were able to place them with, obviously with all the approvals taken in place, into various homes for treatment of elderly care.
Patients that needs the home care, but their access is very slow. At times it takes like 1 week to get a nurse to your home. So we have decided to actually fix this problem. Not only give them an easy way to book our nurses and take to their homes, care for them, easy to pay, easy to manage, easy to select.
This trend will continue to increase in Asia, especially in India, because of the graying population. And I think there's a huge demand for home care services, which will pick up, which is already picked up in India.
To our patients, we are very efficient processing the payments. We are very efficient in terms of getting all the online health records stored and kept secure.
So when we started this company in 2015, in fact in 6 months we were onboarding 400 nurses, and in about 2018 or 2019 we had close to about 1,000 nurses in this particular company. Next slide, please. The next trend that I want to share are opportunities where we have invested. The next slide, please. Is Control Bionics. It's a company based out of Australia. Can we play the video? It's a beautiful fusion of mechanical engineering, life sciences, clinical sciences, and artificial intelligence, along with IoT. So you can see the person who is handicapped is able to lead a very normal life with the help of the products which have been developed and commercialized in the market through Control Bionics. Control Bionics is the brainchild of Peter Ford. Peter Ford is a news anchor, he's not a scientist. So one day he met up with Stephen Hawking in the US, and he was inspired to start a company which essentially became one of the leading companies in the field of human care for all types of people with disabilities, with products that have been commercialized in Australia and parts of Europe. We're trying to bring this company into India very soon. Next slide, please. So last year we made about 4 investments, that is in the last 6 months. So some of these investments have been reflected here. Carkinos, which is into cancer, it's a company which is led by Mr. Ratan Tata. He and his team, they invited me to evaluate this particular investment, and we made this investment along with him. This is also the first investment by Mayo Clinic, and also the first investment by Reliance Life Sciences, Ambani family, who co-invested along with the Tata Group. And we raised in total about $60 million. I was part of the founding investment round in Carkinos. They have built state-of-the-art. In fact, if you get a chance to visit Cochin or Mumbai, do visit the labs. It's probably one of the best labs I've ever visited in India, which is used for cancer diagnostics. The next company is Activo Labs. Activo Labs is a digital healthcare company based out of Singapore, which has come up with a score for longevity. So based on any device, any information, they are able to extract all the information from those devices, and they can track your activity levels. And based on activity levels, they're able to tell you whether you're leading a sedentary lifestyle or whether you're leading an active lifestyle. And they're able to basically come up with digital health markers for cardiovascular diseases, diabetes applications, and mental health disorders. So this company, we raised recently $10 million US. I was a seed investor in Active Labs. And after our seed investment, we worked with the founders to get some Japanese investors, and we successfully raised just last month about $10 million US based out of Singapore. Nexus is a company again based in Singapore, founded by an Indian founder who actually has come up with a novel wearable device to measure pain post knee replacement therapy. And so this is a company which essentially is able to measure, it can be used in physiotherapy cases. And this physiotherapy cases, essentially you need to have a device, a wearable health device that can measure the activity and also measure the quantum of activity, and also can tell you whether the amount of exercise that needs to be done so that the pain it can be relieved post knee transplant. So that is Nexus. So you can see that my investments have ranged from point of care diagnostics to cancer diagnostics to digital health companies. But the last company is a good protein fund. It's a fund which we have invested, in fact, along with two other investors from Singapore and the US. So here in this particular fund, we are invested in 20 companies focused on alternate proteins. Proteins where alternative protein companies are those which companies which manufacture plant-based meat, plant-based or cell-based meat or fermentation-based products, which essentially can be done scalable in a very fast manner and an easy manner. Go to the next slide. So why alternative proteins? Because I think our earlier speaker has touched base on the subject of alternative proteins to some extent. This is a very interesting topic I found because predominantly there is post-COVID, and also I've noticed that the use of biotechnology for creating foods with superior texture and flavor, there is a big change that has actually come about in going for animal-free food products. And so that's why I feel that there's a huge opportunity and demand that exists for alternate proteins. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes. It's a $2 trillion market, and the animal agriculture market, actually, it's already occupying about 30 to 60% of the market share. And what I see is that from 1% today, the alternative proteins will become 30 to 60% of the market by 2050 or so. So there are different types of technologies where medical science, where biotechnology has been used, especially the fermentation technology is being used in producing plant-based, cell-based, and recombinant proteins for daily use. Next slide, please. So these are some of the companies that we have invested in alternative proteins startups, companies globally. Next slide, please. Another trend that I'm seeing right now is the rise of metaverse and artificial intelligence. Can you play this video? The first video, yeah. Metaverse in healthcare is going to be one of the biggest areas, so I think this is another interesting area to get into. I'm on the advisory board and investor in a company called Yon Reality.
where it is so cold that its outer layers froze to stone. But the core remained as hot as the surface of the sun. That is our planet.
So what Metaverse is trying to do
Anybody
is
tell
trying
me
to bring in education
how
to the
old
living
it is?
halls.
It's 4.5 billion years old, so that's right.
So you can see that with the help of the whole concept of learning is now being changed, whereby because of again COVID, virtual classrooms have become the norm, and so that kind of model will continue to. I would say it will continue to evolve, and there will be a hybrid model of both classroom as well as virtual home care for home learning systems.
And welcome to this new
Okay, stop that video, play the second video. In the healthcare
video
context, I'll share with you how Metaverse is actually impacting the healthcare scenario. So where it plays an important role is especially in skilling for technicians, for doctors, for nurses.
Containing
Metaverse is playing a very important role.
gases, and fumes generated within the hood, and removing them as air flows into the hood and then out via the laboratory exhaust system.
So if you want to train doctors or if you want to train nurses, especially during the pandemic, and learning has to evolve. So that's where Metaverse played a very important role in helping them to learn new concepts and real-time concepts.
The classic part of this whole story is that I just learned this trick last year, and I've been a radiographer for well over 35 years.
So this company is a startup company from one of the Swedish universities, and you'll be happy to know that they have just last month they filed for NASDAQ listing at a valuation of around $650 million. Next slide, please. Along with artificial intelligence, now the whole concept of avatar is going to get a new meaning, because now what you can do is that not only you can actually talk about interoperability of data and new avatars, but you can also create your own avatar in a way whereby you can learn from your own self. So any concepts, so with the combination of ChatGPT, artificial intelligence and Metaverse, the entire learning concept in medical colleges, universities will be revolutionized according to me. Next slide, please. The next slide. So the kind of market that we are talking about in Metaverse is huge. If you see the AR, VR market on the left-hand side, previous slide, please. Previous slide. From 2018, 1.8 billion, the projection is around close to $12.6 billion in 2025. And so between AI, robotics, blockchain, and AR, VR, the industry is clearly leaning towards Metaverse, augmented reality and virtual reality, both for education purposes as well as for training purposes. Next slide, please. In terms of the futuristic technologies where we are evaluating, I'm not yet invested, but I'm actually close to investing, evaluating this very actively, is voice-based diagnostics. So when a person speaks, there are different types of biomarker analysis that's with the help of artificial intelligence that you're able to build that biomarker library, and those voice-based diagnostics can be used for as a remote diagnosis based on voice data analysis. It can be used for mental disorders. In fact, actually, this is a company that we are evaluating right now from China, where they are using voice-based therapeutics for detection of ADHD or depression, dementia, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. So this breath-based diagnostics is the other new concept. So there's one is voice and the other is breath, because also from the breath-based diagnostic, as I've given you an example earlier, there are different types of diseases that can be monitored: neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic diseases, respiratory diseases, so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Go to the previous slide. So a new model that I've actually started in Singapore is we started a skilling institute, and this skilling institute is under the brand name of Startup Accelerator. So over the past 20 years, I've been investing in life sciences companies, and now I feel that going forward, the future is not about just investment, but it's also about producing the necessary talent, which is clearly missing in biotechnology and life sciences industry. So we started this particular institute with a focus on innovation, incubation, and investment. Next slide, please. Our vision is to be one of the leading company in startup entrepreneurship and innovation management. Next slide, please. So we have developed these modules. These modules are for biomedical students who wish to come into the world of entrepreneurship. So we have modules in biomedical entrepreneurship, technopreneurship, biopharma alliance management, fundraising, startup metrics, fintech management, innovation, big data, business plan writing. Why are this important? This is important because many a times scientists, when they go to the industry, there is a gap between what the industry is looking for and what the scientific innovations have been put in place. So I think that gap needs to be mitigated through these kind of skilling programs, which are actually not being taught in the universities or as a master student or as a PhD student. So I think this particular gap is the extracurricular is the gap that needs to be mitigated. We are trying to do that. Same is the case in the healthcare industry also, where doctors like to start hospitals, but then in between they realize that it's an expensive affair to run a hospital. And so they have not understood the basics of finance. So we teach finance to doctors and medical science. Me coming from a medical institute, I realized that it was so important for us to learn the nitty-gritty things of numbers and investments and finance. So that is what we are trying to incorporate into this particular program. Next slide, please. So we've already had some partnerships in US, Europe, and Singapore. Next slide, please. We have signed some MOUs with universities. So the good thing is about that for students who get enrolled into a program, they get a certification not just from our institute, but also from the university. In this case, in Singapore, it is the Nanyang Technology University. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So that's in short, in fact. So I hope in the last 15-20 minutes, I was able to capture what are the various technologies that we have invested in, various startup companies. The idea was to give you a flavor of the type of life sciences investments that we are looking at, be it in digital health, be it in diagnostics, be it in metaverse, or be it in basically the rise of artificial intelligence. The core essence in all these opportunities, or the core thing is that India is going to play a very dominant role, especially because of the abundance of the talent pool that is available here. But though we have the talent pool, I see that the skilling is extremely crucial, because without skilling, then it becomes a liability. The demographic dividend could become a liability. And I think that is where I think we are trying to play a role in creating those opportunities going forward. So for all of you, essentially, I hope this information was useful, and thank you very much.